Andrew's mind raced with fear. He had been warned about what inhabited these dark waters. There were superstitions that there were creatures that would lure unsuspecting sailors to their deaths. He swam closer to the dog and felt a chill run down his spine. He reached the ice and froze when he realized the animal was looking straight into his eyes. That was the moment he knew he had just made a fatal mistake. Even as a young boy, Andrei Boykov was fascinated by the ocean. He had read his father's tattered copy of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea a dozen times. It was a morbid and exciting fascination. Aside from his love of history, the old book had also helped him learn English. His native language was Ukrainian, and his parents only spoke it when he was growing up. Although English second language classes at school were excruciatingly boring to him, it was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea that sparked a lifelong obsession. Andrei's fascination with the sea began when he was just 8 years old, but it would stay with him for the rest of his life. He dreamed of exploring the mysteries of the cold sea and getting paid for it. As Andrei entered high school, his passion for the sea only intensified. After school, he immediately set about turning his passion into a career. He knew what he had to do. To become a sailor, Andrei had to meet strict requirements. He had to complete a tough 28-month course to get his maritime certification, but his determination and passion drove him. In the end, he passed the course with flying colors. Once he got his driver's license, 20-year-old Andrei was ready to find a ship and experience the adventures he had always dreamed of. Of course, he had no idea how this was all going to end. It wasn't long before Andrei was hired by a freight company. They shipped cargo from Ukraine to China and around the world. In the early days of his employment, he met a weathered old man named Alexander. Though he didn't take his strange crew member's words too seriously, the man gave him an important piece of information. But in time, Andrei would learn that he should have heeded the old man's warning. The Black Sea is the only body of water that washes Ukraine. All ships leaving the ports of Ukraine have only one route to get to the Mediterranean Sea. Andrei and his crew members faced rough weather in the frigid waters. In fact, the sea got its name from its dark waters and the black storm clouds that rolled and stormed overhead. Andrei was faced with a harsh reality. Aside from the dangerous storms that raged across the Black Sea, Andrei and his teammates had only one way to enter the trade route. To get from the Black Sea to the Mediterranean, they had to pass through the Black Sea Strait. Any sailor who has survived this dangerous journey will tell you that this is one of the most dangerous passages in the world. But Andrei could never have foreseen a danger that didn't come from the ocean, but from something he saw in the strait. Andrei and his teammates found themselves deep in the Black Sea Straits a week into their journey. Progress was slow, with all the ice floating and blocking their path. But that morning, as Andrei sipped a hot cup of coffee, he looked out over the frozen landscape and saw something. Andrei called out to his crewmates, "Hey guys, I think I see something. It looks like a dog trapped on the ice." Alexander arrived first and blinked as he tried to see the animal on the ice. "Andrei, are you stupid? Can't you see it's black?" Alexander warned. "Have you never heard of a black dog as a bad omen? I bet it's a Vodyanoi." Alexander looked visibly shaken when he told Andrei about the old sailor's superstition. Alexander looked at Andrei briefly and then explained, "I can tell from your looks that you don't know what a Vodyanoi is. It's an evil water spirit and loves to drown sailors," explained Alexander, and he wasn't wrong. Ancient Slavic folklore describes a Vodyanoi as a vengeful spirit who lures sailors to drowning. Andrei couldn't believe what he was hearing. "And what about your superstitions? That dog will freeze to death or starve." He barked, "I'll help him myself. Just fold my dishes." Andrei didn't hesitate to keep his word. Fastening his harness to the ship, he climbed over the edge and slipped into the cold black water. Luckily, he had always been a good swimmer. But as he swam closer to the black dog trapped on a piece of ice, he couldn't get what Alexander had said out of his head. Did he just make a big mistake? Andrei had superstitious thoughts. He had been warned about what might live in those waters and would lure sailors into the water before they inevitably drowned. But as he swam closer to the dog on the ice, he felt a chill run down his spine. He froze on the edge of the chunk of ice as the animal looked him straight in the eye. Then he understood that he had made a big mistake. Andrei knew immediately that he had misidentified the dog. It was a wild dog, not the domesticated animal he had thought it was. But despite the danger, the look the wild dog gave him was a pleading look. The animal knew he was the only one who could save it. So Andriy Alexander gave the signal to roll up his dishes. That pulled the two to the side of the boat. With a lot of effort, Andriy managed to hook the dog into his harness and let Alexander and the other crew lift him up and onto the deck. Andriy himself was able to safely climb the ladder. Now on deck, Alexander seemed a little less superstitious. "You were lucky this time. I wouldn't tempt fate and jump in the water for every animal we see." Andriy laughed. "That's the difference between you and me, Oleg." The wild dog seemed smug and docile. He even let Andriy dry him off with a towel. Even the domesticated dogs that the crew brought onto the ship seemed to welcome the wild dog. But Andriy knew he had to make a decision. He had to decide what to do with the animal. Fortunately, in Ukraine and other Slavic countries, it is not uncommon for humans to domesticate wild animals. Andriy convinced the captain to let him keep the dog on the ship while they made the voyage to other countries and eventually back home to Ukraine. The wild dog would form a close bond with Andriy and would never leave his side. Andriy kept him as a pet after the trip was over, and he seemed easily trained for a wild animal. Everything must have been easier for the dog than being trapped on this piece of ice.